Okay, well, very happy to be with you. Welcome to Satsang. So if we can rest sort of turn our attention to the stillness, invite it. Invite the mind to harmonize with the breath, allow the breath to deepen. Simple observation, a simple noticing of the gentle quality that's behind any activity, behind any movement, behind any stirring is the stillness. At the mind level, there are activities at the body level as well. There are sensations and feelings, images flowing, me, my life. Maybe some echoes of earlier activities of the day. Maybe some thoughts about tomorrow. But also there is the piece, the screen, the listening, the space of being that is unmoved, unstirred. So we invite our attention to that dimensionless dimension, this inner stillness, this inner peace. And we invite this peace to radiate like the radiance of the sun throughout our beings, to shine into every corner of our body. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, just resting as being. I give a title to this meeting, what is the mind? What is consciousness? What are these concerns that we feel that our mind is very preoccupied? But it's quite lovely to notice that there is this possibility of resting sort of in the midst of activity, but it's a sort of resting that is free from the activity. There is activity, but there is also the stillness. So rather than making a discourse about the mind and consciousness, we will allow the conversation to unfold whichever way it will unfold together. Because in a way, we're always looking at the same thing from different angles. So, if you have any questions, as you know, you're welcome to pose your questions or write them in the chat box. And if you are on YouTube, you have a way of going to the upper right corner and opening the chat box and writing your question. And Tara will bring it to my attention, although I do not see the YouTube page. We believe and we feel we have a personal mind, but in fact, mind is more a universal thing, like a tree, so many branches, and all these branches are interconnected, forming the tree, forming a web, a network. And all of that is interconnected: our feelings, our thoughts, our mentation, our perceptions, our beliefs, how we behave, what we do, how we react or not. All of that has an effect on the whole. When we are experiencing or acting out a negative emotion, you could see how not only it has an effect upon your very self, but it also diffuses itself around you. And in ways that we do not know, the reach of our thoughts and our actions has no limits. The only limitations are the limitations of thoughts. And even that arises in the open space of awareness, which has no borders. Everything we do and everything we say has an impact far beyond our own mind. This is why it's said that the contemplation of truth is not done on our own behalf. It is done on behalf of the entire network, the entire field. So it's really important to bring the blessing in your life that comes from your contemplation, to bring it into your life, living it. So if you have any questions, we'll take whatever question you may have and we'll take it from there.
Hi, Magdi.
Hello. Is it Esther?
It's Esther, yeah.
Oh, hello, Esther. Yes. Hello, Esther.
I've got earphones on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you very well.
As my realization deepens, there's like a change in what felt like acceptance of, let's say, personality stuff is changing to, I'd like you to speak to, I love it when you speak about true freedom. And what used to feel like acceptance is a more freedom now and less, I guess because it's based on a certain knowing that the stuff is not substantial. So there's that change from simply accepting to, I guess you would call it freedom. And if you would speak to freedom again, I love to hear the words of that.
Okay, yes, Esther. I mean, the more we contemplate the emptiness of our resistance and our seeking and our inner and outer argumentation, the more we contemplate its uselessness and the non-productive, non-useful impact that living in defense or in seeking, the more we realize how empty that is, the less impetus this way of living has, the less interest there is in living this way and defending oneself and spinning thinking, which affects the entire body, the breath and the energetics in the body, about me and him and her and tomorrow and why are they doing this and why am I doing that and so on. So there is a relaxation that comes with the understanding that the path down into deeper and deeper into the cave is not the right path. It's not the path of light. And as the argumentative mind and the seeking mind quiet down, we find that there is the light of peace and presence that was sort of veiled by the separate self-mind. And as the veil thins out, the light of being shines, which is the peace of a wholeness. And it is as if the separate mind is slowly dissolving in the vastness of being. It's sort of expanding beyond its borders, beyond the imagined shell of personhood and personal thoughts and personal feelings. And the transparency, the unopposed presence manifests more and more in one's life. And whatever is not opposed is free. And our true nature is unopposed, because our true nature is not something that is in relation with other things. Because our true nature refers to the truth, the reality of consciousness. And the reality of consciousness doesn't discriminate like the sun. The sunlight doesn't discriminate where it shines. It shines in the entire space, and the rays of the sun fall wherever they fall, on the surface of the lake or on the canopy of the forest, equally, because it is unopposed. There is no opposition to the light. So freedom is unopposed. There are no oppositions to freedom, which is quite different from the personal thought. It's my thought and my belief, my body and my feelings versus yours. In that way of thinking, it is just looking at the mind. And in the realm of the mind is the realm of diversity and variety and multiplicity. But the entire realm of mind arises in the borderless transparency of awareness. And our primary experience is that of seamless awareness. The I is what precedes the adjective, the name, the form. So the I is invisible and absolute and non-phenomenal, and therefore it is not in opposition to any other phenomena. So freedom and unopposition and wholeness and oneness go hand in hand. So as the sense of separate self and the interest in personal thoughts and personal feelings become less and less prevalent in your life, you will find yourself more at peace. And peace and freedom go hand in hand. You cannot be limited and be at peace. Peace and formlessness, peace and freedom go hand in hand. So it's a positive sign in our life when we find the old habits and the old tendencies of contracting and of worrying and energizing ourselves in the realm of time and space. When that quiets down, there is an inner peace, and the inner peace draws you deeper and deeper into the contemplation. There is also a realization in your life that what is. When the weather is rainy, or when it's sunny, when there is a volcanic eruption, or when the ocean is calm, it is what it is. Similarly, a thought arises, it is what it is, a passing event. There is an understanding that to try to change what is ludicrous because it already is. You cannot change what is, and you cannot bring to be what is not. How could you? If it's not, that means it is not. When it is, it is. There is an understanding that such is the situation at the mind level. And it's not a matter of resignation, it's a matter of becoming wise and understanding how the images appear and how the thoughts and sensations appear. And so you do not waste much of your life trying to chase what is not, and trying to get rid of what is. It's in vain. Rather, this energy is not directed in a sort of submission or resignation. Rather, we channel it into turning the attention towards the reality of our experience, which is aware presence, whatever it is that perceives this perception right now, which is a transparency of being, transparency of awareness. And that is the source. So you, rather than being interested in the reflections of the sun, you're more interested in the sun. And your interest in the sun will reveal to you that you are that shining light.
Magdi?
Yes, Esther.
The other day, I was reading where a devotee asked Ramana Maharshi, "What is God?" And he answered, "What is God."
Yes. What is does not refer to what appears. What is refers to the absolute. Isness is absolute. At the mind level, we confuse isness with appearance. At the mind level, we believe the oak tree is, the car, the body is. We confuse what appears with isness. God is. What is not an object. Object is a label, a naming, an arising, a formation. What is absolute. It's very important to be clear about the meaning of Ramana's words and his pointing. Because what appears disappears. What is not what is and then it's not. Is not. It's not the is and is not. It's the absolute is. And if you look in your experience, what is the isness of your experience? You will not find that the isness of your experience is the body-mind. Because the body-mind is and isn't. In deep sleep, there is no body-mind. Between thoughts, there is no thought. So Isness, you will not find it in the body-mind. You will find it in that is finding. Whatever it is that is finding, it is free of the need to find, is the isness of what is. What is it that perceives? What is this isness? What is it that is? Any questions?
Hi, Magdi.
Hello, Anne.
It's good to have you back online.
Yes, nice to be here.
It's not really a question, it's just sort of reporting, really, of what's going on here. And seems to be becoming more clear that everything that is appearing and the whole concept of me as a person is is not who I am. But only when I contemplate it the rest of the time. You know, life's just happening. But it does seem to become more clear that what I thought was me is more of a construct made up by the mind, a sort of structure made up by the mind. And the other thing that's happening is everything that's happening is, there doesn't seem to be any ups and downs anymore. Everything that's happening is just what's happening, and it's like there's not as much judgment about what's happening, whether it's good or bad. It's just all I don't know how to put it really. It's just all just trying to find the word for it. It's not as personal. It's not as personal. It's not as like, oh, well, that's bad because it means that I'm going to da. Mm-hmm. It's just, well, it's just, there's just less of a personalness about it. I suppose that's the only way I can put it, really. Mm-hmm. It's just a bit more interesting because it doesn't, I don't look for the consequences and things. It's just what's happening and then it's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You know, in the contemplation of the emptiness of form, this contemplation also reveals to you the reality of consciousness. They go hand in hand. Yes, that, you know, it's the emptiness of form in the dream forms, and then there's the reality of consciousness that is not hurt, that cannot be affected by the events in the dream.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have to be living fully the dream, meaning you have to be watchful that the spiritual contemplation that, okay, I am the formless self, doesn't become a form. I'm just speaking generically. I'm not speaking in any way to your experience. That's just a pointer that's coming up. To be using the world situation, living the world situation, to sort of as a testing ground for the reality of consciousness as is not touched and unaffected. It's quite different from standing aside from what is happening and saying, I'm not touched because I'm standing aside from the world, body, mind because it's not real. It's quite the opposite. It's actually being completely into whatever situation, meaning not avoiding, not resisting, but just really taking a closer look. You know, what is it? What is it that I need to engage in, and how to engage in it? Because it is in this waking dream that we, by being completely open to the dream and engage in the dream, that we realize that there's nothing really at stake, that it is sort of a play that has the purpose of awakening you to the fact that you are not an object in the dream. You follow?
Yes, yeah. So you're talking about I think you're talking about making sure it's not a detached state.
Yes, that you actually are responding to whatever is happening in your relationships, in your family, at work, in your financial situation, with your health, etc. To be engaged but engaged in the spirit of the contemplation, meaning you are engaged, but at the same time you are contemplating that what am I truly? What is happening here? There is some energy, there is some movement, there is some weather, there's some activity, and there is the mind. This particular mind is engaged in this activity, and it that can be a way. There is a way of being engaged in the dream without being identified as a character in the play, just as an energetic. So in a way, you are witnessing, and you are also an actor in the play, but it's an energetic field. There isn't a separate me that is at risk.
Yeah.
That can be validated by living in a way that is engaged and in the waking dream, and at the same time in the contemplation of the self simultaneously.
Yes. Yeah.
So yes, there is some activity that needs to be done. When you stand apart from it, I am the self, I am that, I am transparent and so on. That activity still remains there, sort of, eyeing you, no matter how transparent you try to be. But when you go to it with your complete openness, your complete being, then there is you experiencing the activity and the transparency of the self simultaneously, because the activity itself is transparent, and it is made transparent by you being fully engaged in it, but not at the mind level, at the breath level, at the presence level, at the contemplation, with the contemplation of the vastness of awareness, of consciousness.
So are you talking about the emptiness and fullness, in a sense?
I understand.
Because I feel more of the emptiness and the fullness.
It could be put this way, although these are just terms.
Because what you're saying, I understand it as like, if I'm relating to it, that I might be more of the emptiness than the fullness, in a sense.
Without necessarily using any labels, I understand what you're saying, but I feel it's more nuanced than just emptiness and fullness. As it's all empty and it's all full. Emptiness, the teachings of emptiness refer to all the material realm and the conceptual realm is mentation. And when you go to mentation, because when you're perceiving an image, when you are looking at an object or touching an object, for example, you're really referring to sensation. When you go to the sensation, or when you go to the perception, you only find mind. You only find dreamlike objects. So in their essence, in its essence, all form is empty. Form is empty. So form is emptiness. Simultaneously, the emptiness of the form, if you do not live its emptiness, if you just sort of stand apart from it conceptually, there is still some form that's standing apart from the emptiness. So the emptiness has to be fully lived in a way to realize, you could say, the fullness of emptiness, or to realize that there is nothing that is hurting the self. There is nothing that is hurting you. There is nothing at stake. So when you go to the form, and you're experiencing the form, you're experiencing mind, and because mind is is empty, so you're experiencing, you're living the emptiness. You're testing it. You're. It's like you're not just reading the menu. You're tasting. You're tasting the entrees that are in the menu, on the menu, and it's in the tasting that there is the understanding that there's really nothing at stake. But of course, to realize there is nothing at stake, it frees you from the concerns and from the anxieties, and at some point, there is nothing at stake. Sort of, it's as if you're bowling, and at some point there are no more pins that are standing up because you threw enough balls at it that there are no more pins that are standing. And then what are you left with? What are you left with when there is a complete clarity, completely established that there is nothing at stake? It's an interesting question. So when there is nothing at stake, the mind is tranquil. Because the mind arises in resistance or seeking. And in the absence of such arising, what remains?
It's just nothing.
But it's, like one could say, there's peace. There is the bliss of the self. Yes, we experience in opposites. We experience the dark in contrast to the light. We experience the cold in contrast to the hot. We experience 50 degrees in contrast to 30 degrees, etc. Right? This is how we, at the mind level.
Yeah.
But there is a piece of the self, awareness, consciousness, that is not in contrast with something else. That does not have any gradations, that does not have any levels, that does not have any dimensions or any measurements. You don't experience that in contrast to anything else. You are that. So yes, when the mind is completely unopposed, at the mind level, there are no more oppositions. But what remains? You say nothing, yes, meaning no mind. But it's not just that there is no mind. There is more than that. We could say that there is knowingness, beingness, self-knowingness. Because there are no more objects to know, for example, still there is self-knowingness. Right? I mean, I know I am. So that knowingness, that I know I am, is irrespective of whether the mind is disturbed or not disturbed. I mean, whether you are happy because you won $1 million, or you're unhappy because somebody broke and stole your car, irrespective of that mind, those two different mind states, you still know I am. Right?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
So there is something in knowingness that has nothing to do with whether the state of the mind or no mind.
Yeah, there is definitely, yeah.
So
And that's what I mean when I say the ups and downs don't seem to be there anymore, because there's more of a sort of stability beyond that.
yes, yes, yes.
So whether there's a lot of mind going on or no mind, I mean, I prefer no mind, but if there's a lot, if there's a lot of mind going on, it's irrelevant really, because
Yeah, it's relevant at the same time. When there is a lot of mind going on, it draws you into contemplation and into inquiry. Because when I want to be careful when I say it draws you into contemplation, it's not like, you're sitting, sort of let me zone myself out of that. No, the contemplation includes the inquiry and living. It's a living inquiry, not just a meditative inquiry that excludes itself from what's unfolding. So when there is a lot of mind, there is inquiry and contemplation and the living, engaged living with whatever mind is arising, because it is in this engagement that you could experience the emptiness and of the mind, and experience also the freedom of the self.
yeah. So sometimes what's going on is like there's a lot of mind, or even if there's a disturbance, it can sort of, in a way, take me deeper into
Yes.
the contemplation, or the just deeper really. It can take, if I don't get pulled along with it, but if I contemplate, it kind of it kind of dissolves.
Right. When we get pulled into the mind when we're resisting. There is something that we don't want. So there is an imagined fear, and so we contemplate the fear, and at the same time we may have to live beyond that fear, live in a way that is not is not living the fear, but living an awakened way to the fact of fear.
So a kind of interest in it more than
an interest, and also an interest, and also, as you're interested in the fear, you're contemplating it, and you're stepping forward towards it. At some point, is some sort of click where your contemplation sort of wins over the fear, and you're able to engage in the activity that a few minutes ago or initially.
Oh, you're cutting out now.
Oh, can you still hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's okay now. It just went off then.
Oh, okay. So what I was sharing is that there comes a point in your inquiry, in your contemplation, and you're moving, experimenting with the emotion, where it's as if the balance tilts, and you find that while previously the emotion was winning over, you find that now your capacity and your ability to live and interact inspired of this emotion is possible, and because that emotion is having less and less grip on you, because in the contemplation,
that's right,
the me starts to sort of thin out, and and the emotion which was holding on to the personal self has less and less of the personal self to hold on to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sort of an engaged contemplative way of living, which doesn't have as a which does not have as a purpose I'm seeking a better life. It has as a purpose just a love and interest in truth, a love and interest in living truth.
Yeah. It seems more like living life fully.
Yes, living life fully. Yes, you could say that. Yes, absolutely. Sure.
Yeah.
Living the entire
Whereas before it
spectrum
was what can I avoid? What can I get over?
right.
What can I...
Right. And what's really lovely about living life in contemplatively fully is that life itself becomes a sweeter and easier to live anyway. living itself through you anyway. Less and less of you living it, and somehow it's living itself through you.
Yeah.
So that
there's just a flow.
Yeah. So your mind experience is delivering via the contemplation, and via your living contemplation is delivering. It's fulfilling its purpose, because the purpose of the mind is not just mind. There is a larger reality than the reality of the mind, which is the reality of consciousness. So mind invariably refers to consciousness, like the dog refers to its master, or like the rays of the sun.
It's just a tiny little part of...
Yeah, but it's not so tiny in our life.
It's just a tiny part.
But the mind is not so tiny in our life. It's not so tiny because we're living with the mind impression. But yes, eventually we realize its reality. It leads us to its master. We realize its reality, and then it's no longer tiny or not tiny, because the mind, meaning this waking dream, is not separate from consciousness. Consciousness is its reality. You see?
Yeah.
So it's like you could not say that one ray of the sun is a tiny thing in the face of the sun, because one ray of the sun is made out of sunlight. So it's not so tiny, because the reality of one ray of sun is the sunlight. Of course, all this is metaphorically speaking, but just to sort of refer, one drop of water contains the entire substance of water.
There's nothing separate.
Yes.
Even the appearance of me is still consciousness.
Yes. When you say the appearance of me, we're referring to the appearance of mind, because me would be thought, sensation, mentation. When yes, mind refers to its master, but it can only refer to its master, meaning to consciousness, upon the contemplation of its reality. Because as long as you're not contemplating the reality of the mind, you are under the personal mind impression. Sort of, it's like it's as if all what the mind is delivering is the me. When you're not contemplating the reality of the mind, all you're experiencing is mind.
Yeah.
You will not experience its reality, the reality of mind, which is the absolute reality of consciousness, if you are not contemplating the reality of the mind. You follow?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And the contemplation of the reality of the mind requires both the Dharma, meaning the contemplation of what am I truly, the discrimination between what is real and what is not real, and also living the Dharma in the mind, meaning you have to live in your life the as consciousness. You have to live in your life with your emotions, meaning with whatever arises. In the contemplation and in living what is unfolding for you fully. Fully meaning not in as a separate personal self, to just come with your whole being, with your entire breath into it. Which is quite different from approaching whatever is happening from the image of, my goodness, is this good or bad for me? Am I gonna get something out of it? You follow?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
That dimension, once that dimension engages, and all the emotions engage, and you're no longer living what is unfolding. You're living your emotions. You're living your mentation. And so your experience is reinforcing itself, that there is something out there for me, or something out there that may harm me.
Yeah.
It all works itself out. It's all because there is a sacred energy in the field, the grace, that's also there. That's
yeah, definitely. It's it just kind of happens, and you've got to let it happen. And
yeah. There's also, like, our love for truth goes a long way.
Yeah.
Our love for truth and for reality.
Yeah.
Is essential. Our love for
it does.
living dispassionately, and yet living the dispassion, not just standing apart.
Yeah, not just a witness.
Yes. Yes. An engaged witness, one could say. Yeah.
Yeah. That's lovely, Magdi. Thank you.
Okay,
Brilliant.
and yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And there are situations in your life where it's nothing there for you, it's not meant for you, and you sort of in time disengage out of them, as well. But out of a deeper understanding that that's not the path. Any questions? Okay, well, if there aren't any questions, thank you all. Very lovely to be with you. And we'll see you soon. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Magdi.
Okay.
Bye.
Namaste. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste. Thank you,
Okay,
Magdi.
Zoe.